Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'll be reviewing Abigail. So Abigail is a new comedy horror from the same director who's done the past few Scream movies. And he also did a movie I really enjoyed a couple years ago called Ready or Not that was kind of a comedy horror, and he kind of brings that form into this film. It tells the story of a group of criminals that kidnap a young girl. And unbeknownst to them, there's a secret that this girl is hiding. If you've seen the trailers, you'll kind of know what it is. I'm trying not to go into too many spoilers. I think the fact that the trailer gives up a lot of the information that you see in the movie was one of the things that kind of ruined the experience a little bit for me. I feel like if you want to go into this movie, you should really go into it blind. That being said, I mean, it's hard to avoid that spoiler if you know anything about this movie. I do think that the comedy elements work really well, particularly with Dan Stevens' character. His character arc for me got a little bit weak by the end of the film, but in the beginning, I think he really brings the comedic energy. And I think a lot of the people in this movie work really well off of one another. I also think that Kevin Durand, who plays kind of this big muscle-bound, almost like idiot type character, had some really funny moments. Of course, going back and forth against characters like Dan Stevens' character. The brutality and violence of this movie is definitely there. If you are a fan of gore, of blood, of violence, you'll enjoy this one. I think as a horror fan, I liked some of the technical elements, and it was one of the things that really raised it above being just kind of your throwaway film. The fact that we had some cool horror effects, some cool prosthetics, made it more enjoyable to check out. The real weak part of the story, though, for me was the plot. It never really felt like we had an opportunity to attach to any of these characters, and some of the characters are gone very early on in the film without going into too many details. Kind of the main character in this film, played by Melissa Barrera, never really feels like we have an opportunity to connect with her on more than just kind of a surface level. They try to create kind of an emotional connection with the character, and by the end it does accomplish that to some degree, but it took so long for me to even kind of latch on to any of these characters on any kind of significant level. But I will say, if you go into the movie just kind of expecting a fun horror gore fest, you will have a good time. And I think the comedy elements mixed with horror will make an enjoyable watch for most people. Alicia Veer, who plays Abigail, the young girl in the film, I think she does a really good job because she's a young girl trying to play a character that's hundreds of years old that has this very dark and macabre sense of humor. And I think some of her scenes really stole the show, and she's just so creepy at times. This movie does make great use of tension, particularly in the middle third. The movie tries to be clever at times and has some back and forth plot twists, which I never felt like really moved the story along, and I think for me at least, it made me not really love the pacing of the film. Particularly in the third act, there's something that happens with one of the main characters that you see in the trailer, and I was kind of waiting for that to happen, and it kind of felt like it was supposed to be this big reveal, but I kind of knew where it was going, and then you get this backstabbing back and forth that kind of got a little tiring by the end, at least for me. So there were a lot of things that I enjoyed about it, particularly, like I said, the blend of comedy and horror, the way that the characters played off one another, the horror effects as a horror fan really were there for me. And while it didn't have the most original or interesting plot, I definitely think it's one worth checking out if you're a fan of horror comedies. So if you end up checking out Abigail, let me know what you thought about it. Did you like it more? Did you like it less? Like I said, I think it's a movie that people have a lot of fun with if you're a fan of this kind of genre. So remember to leave your thoughts down below and like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.